if I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, thinking of about the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo, guys, it is Old Man G here, RDS back again for another late Friday night show. Apologies, guys. First of all, I want to apologize because, I've not been able to do as many shows as I want. I do have like a pretty important exam coming up, moving around, all the rest of it. So the amount of shows I've been able to do this week in General Plus has been quite less. So we are going to be doing a match reaction to the Brighton game at the weekend. There's some and then we'll try and see if they get the fewer things. But before we get into it, remember, guys, if you are new to the channel, like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter. We are United X, and smash the notification button to latest Manchester United news. I'm obviously joined by the amazing Tom, the journalist, who hopefully is going to help me just pick up and deal with this debate, the debacle that is basically Manchester United, because we're a joke right now. Manchester United. I mean, it's the international break is over. And somehow I feel like Manchester United are have been basically a Netflix TV series over the last 2 weeks or so. It just, I mean, it's evident by that. But I've been wanting to do my Welcome to Manchester United Amrabat video, and there seems to just be no shortage of news that's come out from Manchester United that you just think this club is a mess. Whether that's from what happened to Anthony at the beginning of the week, which was their fault, to Harry Maguire and his mum in arguments with fans, to freaking Sancho and what he said in regards to the Arsenal game was almost 2 weeks ago, and now we're here. That's a mess. Amrabat's injured, so Manchester United are where we're going into this Brighton game. And this is just so people know, this is going to be, we're talking about Ten Hag and Sancho, you can see in the thumbnail, but we are going to have a brief United vs Brighton preview, looking at Ten Hag's press conference, and also it's a Q&A. So if you have any specific questions as well, obviously it's a chilled out Friday night, so if any Q&A questions, ask about it. But as you can see in the poll in the chat, who do you think is right, Ten Hag or JADON Sancho? I did obviously put a poll up, I think it was yesterday, regarding who did people think was right, Ten Hag or JADON Sancho. And if I just remind myself on the poll, I think, let me have a look. I have a feeling, well, it was overwhelming, let's put it that way. If I just have a look at the community poll here, yeah, 150 votes. And it's like 85% saying Ten Hag as well, and 50% saying Sancho. So not insignificant. And I have been in debates on people on Twitter and comments talking about the whole situation. So in fact, so let's actually get onto it really, so because I think that, I mean, before actually, let me go into the chat before, because this is going to take some time, and it's quite sad actually. Big up Lucky Singh in the chat. We've got obviously some people watching, so please like the video if you can. Pogba 2.0 causing disharmony and addressing them well. Luman says, Lucky Singh, where have you been? Oh, okay, fair enough. And then big up Rasmus in the chat as well. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Tom, Sancho, man. I mean, obviously the context. This is all coming out from 2 weeks ago. Still, from
Mhm.
why he wasn't selected for the Arsenal game. Ten Hag obviously said his asked, and this is the key thing I think that's important because I've already made my point clear in that I generally don't understand the reaction to this, and I don't think he would have given Gore. I didn't even know that Ten Hag had said this in a press conference. So a lot of people saying, "Oh, Ten Hag publicly criticizing Sancho and he's bad, etc." It's like, how many people actually watch post-match press conferences? I didn't even know that he'd said it. I just thought, oh, okay, fair enough, whatever. The only reason that this became an issue was because Jadon Sancho wrote a Instagram post in response to Ten Hag's comments. He took the Instagram post down, I think, a few days ago, so it was up for quite some time. And now,
Mhm.
obviously, we're hearing that Jadon Sancho, because he's refusing to apologize to Ten Hag, has been basically banished. He's been banished effectively. He's playing with the under 21s, whatever. What do you? I've been speaking for so minutes now, Tom. What do you think about this mess?
I mean, it's to be honest. I think based upon what a lot of people look at it from Sancho is there is two cases to the argument. And I always say this: there is two sides to every story. We have to admit in saying that. But I think
True.
the weight of what's compelling is coming out, and I think really from what we know with a track record with him, at Manchester City, at Dortmund, there is that track record there of he's been fined, he's not turned up early for training, he's been late. And, I think really character's an issue for Jadon Sancho, I think character's a massive issue, if I'm being honest. I think,
Mm.
you can have all the talent in the world, but if you haven't got that character, you're not going to be that person in the dressing room. And you need 11 players who are going to be those characters in the dressing room if you want to win things. Manchester City have that. Liverpool of a couple of years ago, they had that. The great teams that, we've seen for years and years down the line, Chelsea teams have had it where they've had 11 players who have been proven characters. Manchester United, have that pedigree of having those characters and those major players. The thing with Jadon Sancho that I think is really sad is, he's a really talented player. He honestly, in terms of talent, he's still 23 years old. Would you believe it at this age? So he has got a full career ahead of him, really. And for what's actually happened, I mean, you know, making the point that he did with Ten Hag, where Ten Hag had been asked a question afterwards, and I think personally it had been taken out of context. Really, I think he's just answering a question that is being put to him at a post-match press conference, and he's going. They didn't just ask about Jadon Sancho; they asked about Scott McTominay as well. So it's not like they were singling Jadon Sancho out.
Mm-hmm.
They asked about other players as well. So at the end of the day, he said that look, Jadon Sancho's not trained well for the week and everything, and he's not part of the squad based upon that, and he knows my reasons why. And Jadon Sancho basically come out and played I've been scapegoated, and effectively, you might as well have just wrote that the managers lied. Like he might as well have just saved all the hassle and just said Erik ten Hag's a liar. At the end of the day, the one thing that we've known with Ten Hag is when you call him a liar, he doesn't react well to it. And Ronaldo was the biggest example. Went out there on Piers Morgan's interview, and Erik ten Hag was watching the interview, funnily enough, with Cristiano Ronaldo on the way back from an away game. I can't remember who they were playing against at the time, and he was absolutely fuming according to form. And no club officials even knew that was going to go ahead. Neither did they know that this thing with Jadon Sancho was going to go ahead. And look, I think it's a really sad situation because you have such a talented young player who is basically just washing away and wasting his career. It's not so much about there's two sides to a football. There's talent and there's application. Jadon Sancho has the talent of up there. He was up there with the top 3-4 names in the world. I think people forget this when he was at Dortmund. He was being compared to the likes of Mbappe's, the Neymars of this world as wide players. He was up there, and he had the numbers to back it up: assists, goals, chances created. He was up there. And I think for me, with the way that Ten Hag's really handled players in the past as well, like at this football club, it's Erik Ten Hag's way or the highway. And I think Jadon Sancho's caught in the crosshairs. And really, if you're not going to play by Erik Ten Hag's rules, you're going to be disciplined.
Hmm.
But the thing is that I think's really rotten to the core with this story is that he's actually gone back on what his principles are, Erik Ten Hag, and he actually offered Jadon Sancho a way back. He said, "Look, apologise, and you'll be back in first team training.
Hmm.
Maybe not playing straight away, but you can
Hmm.
work your way back to that."
Hmm.
He's basically gave him a way back,
Hmm.
and Jadon Sancho's bluntly and blatantly just said, "No, I'm not. I'm not apologising. I think I'm in the right. I think I'm in the clear. I think I stand by what I said."
Hmm.
But I will withdraw the post. That's pretty much Jadon Sancho's side of things. So effectively, you have a
Oh,
stalemate.
sorry to interrupt you. Just for thanks so much to thanks to King Stash for bigging up the members. Thank you so much for the gifting memberships. Really appreciate it, King Stash, man. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much for your regular support for the channel. And he says, "Yo, RDS, man, so happy we get to watch some football tomorrow. We must win. We will win. It's going to be a war. We got to fight. Win by any means. Good to see you, brother. Big up, Tom. Go get Man United."
Big up.
And see, this is the type of optimism that we need, because if I'm honest, like, if I'm honest, King Stash, like if it wasn't for your post, I'm going in to tomorrow being like, I don't actually know how we win this game. You know, we're at home, and I'm thinking, okay, yes, you know, Ten Hag's record at home is good, but against the Brighton side, and we'll talk about it a bit later, but about against the Brighton side, they've started the season well. I'll bet they did lose to, I think, West Ham. Was it 3-1? I think it was at home.
Yeah,
So
3-1. Yeah.
it is what it is. And then on top of that, you've got all of this turmoil around the club. You know, you've got obviously injury issues. I mean, I guess there's positive in the fact that, like, Martinez and Lindelof are fit and are ready to play. So by the grace of God, we're not going to see Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans play as centre backs for Manchester United for some time together. Because that was crazy against Arsenal. That was actually crazy seeing that. And also, obviously, Rasmus Højlund, we're going to see a bit more about him. So there is stuff to be positive about. But, you know, going back to say thanks again. Big up King Stash, man. Really appreciate it, buddy. But, you know, just given the, you know, the nature, and as you said, I mean, this is the thing, guys. You know, so I try and be quite a balanced person sometimes with regard to this, but and if anyone knows me in the chat, and obviously even Tom, I was still quite critical of Ten Hag even towards the end of last season, you know, because of what happened with the results, the loss of the treble, all these different things. So I'm not a Ten Hag pro supporter, you know, by any means. I'm not in a sense that, like, I'm still critical when especially with his in-game management, etc. But this situation, it was almost kind of like, just seeing the response to it was almost like, I don't get it. As if people don't understand how work works. Because this is what I said. Obviously, let me know in the chat, guys, what you think. Is that I look at this situation and I go, right, okay. So number one, even if before all this, last season we don't even know what happened. You know, you had some issues. We don't know if it was mental health. We don't know what it was, but you had issues away from the club. Now, no one knew. We and I still don't know. So if you're thinking that Ten Hag disrespects you, he probably would have, and he cared. He probably would have said, "Listen, Jadon Sancho's going through X, Y, and Z, mental health, etc., whatever, or there's an issue. It is what it is." But he protected you from the media, from all the speculation, etc. Sent you away to do your personal training. You're still getting full pay for it, by the way, and then you come back. So that's the first. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, as you rightfully said, sorry, my lighting. The second thing, as you just said, is that Ten Hag was, and I kept on saying this over and over and over again. Big up Rob in the chat, man. Hope you're doing well, buddy, and big up Rog. The second thing you said, which I've seen to repeat this over and over again because people's argument is like, oh, but I don't know what managers. How could Ten Hag call Jadon Sancho in public? Blah 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 blah. Hang on for a minute. Number one, I've seen this happen several times. Managers do this quite regularly, so people make it sound like this is some sort of, like I was talking about to some Arsenal fans saying, "How can you do this?" Like, have you forgotten that Arteta did the same thing to Aubameyang? He literally did the same thing to Aubameyang, but you don't talk about it. Why? Because Arsenal are in a better position than they were than when Aubameyang was there. That's why you don't talk about it. You know, so the reality is, and let's not even talk about what Mourinho said about Luke Shaw in public. So, but the reality is that he was asked the question, he gave a direct answer, and at the end of the day, like, if he didn't give a direct answer, because I was like, okay, if he, what's he supposed to say? Oh, he's ill. Okay, that's a lie. Jadon Sancho responds on Instagram. That's a lie. Oh, we didn't think that. What exactly is he supposed to say to a direct response to why was Jadon Sancho not picked in a 18-man squad? Because whatever answer he says, the follow-up question is going to be, so you don't think that Jadon Sancho is good enough for an 18-man squad despite being fit? And Jadon Sancho is going to respond.
Or you would have had a contradiction where you have this illness and then he turns up the next day on Monday for training.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's miraculously recovered because he weren't exactly going with England, was he?
No, exactly. So this is the thing. So it's like, so you know, you asked a direct question. So it was foolish, and a wise man, for all the young men who are watching and just others, a wise man once said to me once is that when you are angry, don't respond in your anger. Okay, it's like, so essentially, like, don't react, just respond. Okay, what Sancho put out on Instagram was a reactive response. Okay, if he just waited 24 hours or so, he probably realized what's happening to Anthony, which we've already talked about. I'm not going to go into because we're still waiting. Although, I mean, I guess we could talk about some of Anthony because some of the stuff that I saw leaked by the United stand with the conversations is wild. So yeah, there was a lot of wild stuff. I mean, just oh my goodness, man, this soap opera club, man. Jeez, literally, you could have had 3 or 4 stories alone based on United players around Sancho, around Maguire, around Anthony, and just injuries, man. It's a joke. I'm tired already. It's 4 games into the season, and I'm already tired. It's just how we 4 games, and I'm ready. Literally, people are already saying it's like I want the season to end, and it's been 4 games, and we have Bayern Munich on Tuesday, man. It's just it's I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, in summary, like Sancho for me shouldn't have. For me, Sancho should have at least waited 24 hours before he responded. He didn't, which was dumb. Sorry, 2 seconds. Lighting better. And then moreover, had he waited, he probably ends up getting picked in the squad because at the end of the day, he doesn't have Anthony to use. And then on top of that, you know, you don't get into an argument with your manager, and then you're saying I'm not going to apologize him in a right. You know, so if I'm Sancho, I'm looking at this, and this is the thing where it's a similar with Pogba, Neymar, all these different sort of things. That at the end of the day, like, I don't know whether he's ill-advised. How is it? What do you think is going to happen here? Because at the end of the day, okay, yes, you can potentially get like a loan move away to rumors hearing Forest, etc., to play some football, but you are on 300k a week in terms of wages. Okay, so a lot of these people saying, well, Jadon Sancho's technique, ability, etc. Yeah, you're right. Jadon Sancho has got good ability. He does. There's no doubt about that. I don't doubt that at all. But the reality is that, like, as we saw with Pogba and as we saw with Neymar to a certain extent, gone are the days where big clubs are willing to spend hundreds of millions of pounds and high wages on players that aren't performing. So if I'm Jadon Sancho and I'm like, right, okay, I don't like this manager. I want to move, etc. You either got to do a situation like Ronaldo, but at the end of the day, what happened? Just think about Ronaldo did what he did. He had to go. No club ended up wanting him in Europe. He had to go to Saudi Arabia. Pogba, oh yeah, posturing, maybe Real Madrid or the rest. At the end of the day, no club wants to buy him from Manchester United. His contract expired. Juve signed him on a free at reduced wages, and now you know what's happened to Pogba right now.
Yeah.
Sancho, if you're Jadon Sancho, you're thinking, right, okay, how does this look? What does this look like? Because other clubs, other managers look at this and go, I don't want a troublemaker at my football club. And a troublemaker that costs 300k a week? Nah, blood. The only thing that's going to happen is that, okay, fine, you can go out on loan to Nottingham Forest, who will take you out on loan if Manchester United cover more than half of your wages, or maybe 2/3 of your wages. And then so anyone saying that Jadon Sancho's not going anywhere. Like, realistically, did anyone actually look at this transfer window for Manchester United and see how difficult it was for us to get rid of players because they want high wages? Where do people think Jadon Sancho's going to go? Where does he think he's going to go? You think Madrid, Bayern, City, any top team in Europe is going to come knocking for a dude who's on 300k a week and who's barely playing when they can get other options? No. So at the end of the day, in summary, what I'm saying, you Jadon, have shot yourself in the foot here. Even if you want to leave, if it was me, I'd be like, okay. If it was me, I don't post anything. I'm annoyed. I'm like, right, I'm going to speak to the manager. If the manager doesn't want to hear it, I'll go and escalate it to Mert, who's the CEO, and then put in my transfer request. Do that, okay? And then if the manager picks me to be available, when I play, I will play the best football that I can to show that I've still got it, and then that the manager is wrong. And then if I go out on loan in January, I do the same thing. All this does right now is put more pressure on Jadon Sancho when he does perform, because if he's crap, especially if he goes out on loan, no one's going to go for him, and he's just going to end up just being a player and then when you have the fact that you've got Palestri and even Ahmad coming back, like, who I'm sure Ten Hag is more than happy to use. I can put Bruno Fernandes on the wing if I want as well. I've got Garnacho, etc. It is what it is, so I don't know. I just think that, even if you say, you know what, Ten Hag, maybe he could have said it differently. I don't know what he could have said, but okay, you say that. At the end of the day, Jadon Sancho is the one that doesn't have the leverage. He doesn't have the leverage right now. Like, it's not like he's been world class, performing non-stop week in, week out, and like you're losing a substantial player. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, United don't even, I would argue, even have really like top world class that have been doing it because it's been so unpredictable. So at the end of the day, like, I don't know what you think, so Tom, but it's just it's not ideal for this dude, for Sancho, and I don't know what he does from here, but he needs to do something and do something quick.
I mean, just as you were touching on there with potentially getting players out and everything in the final week of the English window, and then you obviously had the following week where the Saudi Arabia window was still open. Manchester United was actually actively looking to offload players to Saudi Arabia. And even if it was that Saudi Arabia and a Saudi Arabian club was going to take them on loan, Jadon Sancho was one of the players that they were looking at letting out. And it was either that they wanted a Saudi Arabian club to buy the player permanently, or they were prepared to loan him for the full season, cover half of the wages for the player, and then also what it would mean is that United would want an obligation for a Saudi Arabian club to buy Jadon Sancho. And what Jadon Sancho did instead was he went to New York City for the week. That's what he did instead. So pretty much instead of trying to activate or instigate a move to go elsewhere, he decided, oh, do you know what, sod this, I'm going to go on holiday. And look, yeah, it was the international break and you could pretty much do what you want and everything coming up to that point. But at the end of the day, if a club's actively looking at maybe moving you on, like, you at least have the respect and the decency to stick around. You never know. Like, look, we've seen it with many players. That Saudi Arabia, they're blowing wages out their ass. They might have doubled Jadon Sancho's wage for all he knows, but he didn't even sit there to listen to it. So I think at the end of the day,
He still thinks he's too young, and so, I mean,
yeah. He thinks that's the thing that I've heard. I think with Sancho and sort of the people close to him is that they believe that he's got the talent where he could move to another club, revitalize himself, and then go again.
Which club? Which club? Which club?
If he was to leave Manchester United,
yeah. Which club?
If he prefer his preference, if he was to leave Manchester United, he'd want to go back to Dortmund. That's what I heard. Anyway, he loved Germany. That's the one thing that I knew from him. And when he actually left Dortmund, it was only the thing that Jadon Sancho and sort of people close to him when he was at Dortmund and sort of his family and that was that he felt like he'd actually made an impact over there and he had that freedom to actually express himself. But in, say, Manchester City's academy, he didn't have that same warmth and that same feeling as he did when he went to Germany and he had the different experience.
I can't with that because especially after seeing what Jude Bellingham in terms of mentality, because let's keep it a stack. Dortmund, and I with all due respect to Dortmund, I've had far less respect for that football club after what I saw at the end of last season when they freaking bottled a title challenge on the final day of the season at home to a side who basically lost the last 5 games. Like the expectation and mentality at Dortmund as such is that like you're not realistically, are you really competing? So essentially, Dortmund was a club that where James could be comfortable. Okay, the dude is going to be picked. He doesn't really have a lot of competition, and at the end of the day, you're not really expected to win the league. You're not really expected to win the Champions League. So you can
develop. That's it. Just develop.
Yeah, exactly.
That is all that it was. Just develop your career and then go on to bigger and better things. But that's the thing that I was saying. The bigger and better thing was, if he was to leave Borussia Dortmund, the way that he looked at it and his agent looked at it was, it has to be the club that sets him up for 4 or 5 years. And Manchester United weren't the only club that were actively looking to get Jadon Sancho. Liverpool was looking at getting Sancho in. There was Chelsea who were flirting and fluttering around when they were looking at wide players and stuff. So it wasn't exactly like United was the only option on the table. He had options, but he chose that Manchester United is the one that he wanted to come to. And I just jog people's memories back. A lot of Manchester United fans, you can trace the tweets or whatever from 3-4 years ago. A lot of United fans in COVID time wanted Manchester United to pay 120 million euros for this player. And you've literally, so he would have been your club record signing, and this is what would have happened in this situation. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. But the way that his agents marketed it is brilliant. He's on a long-term contract. He's on stupid amounts of money, inclusive of bonuses, appearances. Well, he won't make any appearances anyway. So at the end of the day, he's still on a set base of wage, which is over £300,000 per week for 4 years. So effectively, I think he's already gone through 2 years of that. So he's got 2 years left, but then they have the option to trigger for another year. But that's based on his agent's side. That's got nothing to do with the club. So unfortunately, the way that Manchester United have constructed the deal, it's kind of kicked them in the bollocks because they can't really get rid of him unless Jadon Sancho's actively looking to leave. And at the moment, as we speak, he's not. At the end of the day, he said that, look, I want to fight for my place at Manchester United, but situation's basically been taken out of his hands, and he's been told, and until you apologise, you're not even going to participate in the first team squad training. So until you apologise, then we can talk. Until then, I think really from what I think United would be looking at is they're going to look at January. They're going to be actively feeling out, as I say, Saudi Arabian clubs. Will you take them on loan for the rest of the season? I don't know, somebody in Spain or something, Getafe or something. I don't know if they've got a relationship there,
Getafe isn't going to be
maybe bring Greenwood back and give you Sancho, whatever, buy one, get one free. I don't know.
Jeez, man,
but, there'll be a club out there that I think would take him It's just that the wages are the issue on it.
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is saying like he's not going anywhere.
No.
Because no club is going to cover Jadon Sancho's full wages or pay him the level they want, unless like if he wants to force a move and say I want to be sold regardless, and I don't mind taking a massive pay cut regardless, then that's fair enough. I don't know any single player that's like that, because Neymar, Pogba, etc. didn't do that. So
No.
I don't know a single club that will. And at the end of the day, you're essentially telling the club, hey, I want you guys to basically pay most of our wages, most of my wages, so I can go and play football elsewhere. And it's like,
or you can come to a pre-mutual agreement payment, like what Harry Maguire wanted, where you pay me the rest of my wages for the contract, which 300,000 don't, I'm roughly doing this for over 2 years. I'd probably estimate it's over 10 million or something like that.
Exactly.
So give me 10 million and I'll go. It's as simple as that. So then you've basically terminated my contract and I go elsewhere.
Yeah.
But you then make the money back for selling me, and you'll make some more on top of it. But this isn't a good marketing tool for United, because you have a player right now that a lot of clubs are going to look at and think, we don't even know what we're buying.
Yeah, no, we bought Jadon
we're not even seeing him.
We bought Jadon Sancho for 70 million. I don't know a club that's going to pay 70 million right now for Jadon Sancho.
You're buying a player that's not going to be active, not competitive. Well, let's put it this way. He's not going to be in a competitive scenario, is he? No. Even if you stick him in with the under 23s or under 21s or whatever, if you stick him in that's not competitive for him. He might score a hat-trick every single week. We don't know. But the way that it looks, it's rough, really. And unless he's going to actively come out with something, and United are going to have to work the socks off in January. Let's be real. Like, they're going to have to broker a deal with some club, really, because I think, if I'm being completely honest with this whole situation, I think if he was going to apologise, he would have done it already.
Yeah.
Because he knows the scenario. He knows that Anthony's not there. The player that he's actively been up against, really, on that right-hand side, that option's been taken away from him. That's out of his hands. So he has a ready-made spot there for him. If he apologises, he might have to wait maybe a couple of games. Maybe after the buying game, you put him straight in thereafter in the next Premier League fixture. You put him in. But you might have to wait, Jadon, but then you're back. You're back in. Show me what you can do. But he's not done that. And I think, as you said, G, whoever is advising him, it is a joke. And if I'm being completely honest, the way that a lot of modern day footballers nowadays, it's almost as if the agents run their lives. Like, you can take family and you can say whatever with that, and family have an influence on players. It doesn't, because a family's the people that know you, but the agent's the people that's gonna get you everything for the future. That's going to make you financially secure. That's going to get you to, maybe your boyhood club, like, say, Rasmus Højlund did. And you used an agency, said, listen, I'll be with you for 3 months for the whole summer. You get me to Manchester United. If you don't get me to Manchester United, I'm not a client of yours. And they got him here, and he's still a client with them. So, again, the way with Jadon Sancho, it's difficult, because he's put himself in a corner now where he's got two options. He can either sit on £350,000 a week and do nothing with his career, and he wastes 2 years of his career. And then even after that, if United even if he was to go for free, who's going to take an inactive player like that for free? They're not going to. And then wherever he goes, he's going to demand stupid amounts of money. And I can play you a scenario straight away now. David De Gea still doesn't have a football club right now.
No.
Reason being, he wants over £300,000 per week on a wage. And no club's going to give him it. So he's not got a club right now. And he's still a free agent on the market. So
this is when people need to look at it like at the end of the day, like, if you want to talk about a player that did it right, look about Fred. Fred was a professional through and through. Like, and at the end of the day, it's, from what I know, it's not someone that was particularly money driven, particularly just from what I can see. At the end of the day, he's gone to, he's in his late 20s. He's gone to Fenerbahce. Scored a pretty good goal recently, by the way, actually. So there. And Fenerbahce, a decent Turkish side, might still get some Champions League football, Europa League football. Happy days. There you go.
Well, they're in the Champions League anyway, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, they're on the Champions. Yeah, future-wise from that. So, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, Fred has gone from United to a Champions League club where he's still getting decent wages, and he's happy days. There you go. You know what I mean? So even though Fred has gone, go on.
And like you say there, G, who's to say that Fred might not go to Turkey? If you revitalize his career, and he might go somewhere. Yeah. We don't know. Exactly. He might come back to the Premier League, and you might see him for Fulham or somebody like that. You might see him at Brighton or something if they sell another midfielder and they want a replacement.
Exactly.
You don't know. But the way that players are running it, like from that scenario, you can say that Fred's more influential of his own career because he's chosen what he wants. JADON Sancho right now hasn't chosen anything of what he wants, other than he's in denial and he's stubborn. And the problem that you have right now, I think you can safely say that JADON Sancho is a stubborn character. ERIK ten Hag's as stubborn as they come. He doesn't change things. You'll know that from team selections. He's very meticulous and he sticks to what he knows. And he's very stubborn, as I say. So when you've got two stubborn figureheads going against each other, I think we all know how that's going to work out. And it's not going to come with some mutual agreement or anything like that. It's not going to happen. But the way that I think ERIK ten Hag will look at it is, well, JADON Sancho wasn't my player in the first place. So I stand really to lose nothing. The thing that's hurting Ten Hag is Antony, because that's his player. He bought him. Yeah. He brought him to Manchester United. So that's going to hurt more than this scenario with JADON Sancho.
But even, and obviously we need to move on because we've spoken Sancho for a bit, so obviously topics. But the reality is, even because a lot of people say, it's because I saw a lot of the argument, because a lot of the arguments seen with pro Sancho have been predominantly Ten Hag has his favourites. Anti's not been performing particularly well. 17 votes and 100% people say that Ten Hag is right. But make sure you like the vid as well, guys. By the way, a lot of people have said Ten Hag has his favourites, and he does. He's playing players like from look at Anthony, and I just kind of think but hang on for a minute. If I recall, Donny van der Beek is still at the club. Donny van der Beek played under Ten Hag. He knows Ten Hag. He's also a fellow Dutch, a Dutch player. So if anything, you'd think that out of all the players for Ten Hag to have a favourite, it'd be Donny van der Beek. He's come into the club, and yes, okay, I admit that Van der Beek was injured from January, February, etc. And he was
he had the injury against Reading.
And he was giving him a little bit more game time. But still, even for the 6 months prior to that, and even in pre-sort season, it's not like Ten Hag has really given Van der Beek much more opportunities. He would have been the one that said, listen, if you want to go and leave the club, it is what it is. Ask the question, Ten Hag knows Donny van der Beek more, so why does Ten Hag prefer playing Scott McTominay over Donny van der Beek?
I mean, the way that you can look at that is probably similar. You can say that he knows the player, and he's Ajax boy and Dutch and everything. But again, he wasn't one of ERIK ten Hag's signings at Manchester United.
Yeah, no, I
he
agree.
Wasn't. I understand. I understand what you're saying in terms of that he knows the player and everything. So it's almost as if he's just joining the player.
Yeah, but I agree. He agreed to buy him at Ajax. I think my point is that it's kind of like
he came through the academy anyway. But yeah. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, but my point is that if the argument is bias, so you'd think that Ten Hag would have more of a bias towards Van der Beek than Scott McTominay, for example. So the fact that Ten Hag prefers Scott McTominay over Van der Beek, the fact that we've already seen how he treated Ronaldo, how the Maguire situation is handled, now the Sancho situation. I don't understand how people can say that Ten Hag is this play FC bias type sort of character. I mean, he's Malacia was a signing.
Yeah,
he's Malacia's a second choice to Luke Shaw when Luke Shaw is fit. We know that. Ericsson is kind of in and out. Lisandro Martinez, well, I mean, he's one of our best centre backs. Enough said, he's not going anywhere. So, but at the end of the day, it's like, I look at, you know, I always use this example. Or sorry, I've just seen Mo's. Neither have performed at a high level to be honest, but at least Anthony works hard defensively, and again, that is something that again I think is important. But I look at Wan-Bissaka. His first 6 months, Ten Hag did not want to play Wan-Bissaka. We were even hearing that he wanted to be sold, etc. Gone, not interested, whatever. You know, did Wan-Bissaka cry about it, rant on Instagram, say he was a diddy? He got his opportunity, but he waited, got his opportunity after the World Cup, and since then he's been his first choice. And now we're hearing, oh, he wants to give him a new contract. I still think he might go and buy another fullback, but the fact that we're now hearing more about he's going to get in contract, so it's like, so I see that as like, if he was just pure favoritism, he would have stuck with Dalot. But at the end of the day, Wan-Bissaka did his thing. Like, so, you know, I don't get it how we're in a situation, especially as an older, maybe older, in quote United fan who's seen the likes of. I remember I was on Twitter about Park Ji-sung and how hard working player he was. Like I was looking at some of the highlights and I was like, my God, the standards at this club have fallen. I've seen the amount of quality, the players, the play that we did. It was so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people are like, I would rather, I'm glad social media wasn't back then, because people would have been just trolling these guys, because it's like people would rather defend a player because he sat down Alisson against Liverpool. You're like, okay, fine, fair enough. I was laughing. Go Jay now. I was celebrating. Great. But at the end of the day, it's like, what have you not won? You have no credit. You've not won anything at Manchester United. You weren't even really part of the whole Carabao Cup campaign last season when we won it. So what exactly is it that I don't get it, guys?
I think from maybe Ten Hag's perspective, really is we can say it for it. He failed to implement his style of play last season. And I think we already know the reasons why. That he had to compensate for some players that couldn't play his way of playing, and we know David De Gea and Harry Maguire, and we know the rest, and we know how it fizzled out from the end of the season when those players were brought to the spotlight. But really, with what you were saying about like why he chooses maybe McTominay over Van der Beek, I just think the physicality of the league makes you or breaks you, and Donny Van der Beek. Me personally, you put him in La Liga, you put him in Barcelona next to Frankie de Jong, he'll probably be the Donny van de Beek that was at Ajax. The way that the league is, the style of play, the speed, the possession, pass and move, tiki-taka, it would be perfectly set up for a player like Donny van de Beek. But you put Scott McTominay over there, we know how that would end. But you put Scott McTominay in an English team, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Manchester United. I would say for now, if you give a reasonable price, if Scott McTominay was on the market for £20 million, you'd have a lot of the low. I'd say maybe teams below 10th place downwards in the league that would want him, whether it be on loan or as a permanent transfer. They'd want him. He's a good squad player to have. He's not necessarily going to be a brilliant first, team player and going to be consistent. But to come into the squad and do a job for you when, I don't know, like, for example, you go away to Munich, you've got big lads, Goretzka, Kimmich and stuff who are going to be, brushing people like Fernandes off the ball. You needed somebody like a McTominay to stick it on him. That's the sort of character that we've always known with United. They have those wild card players, as you said, like Jason Park was one of them. McTominay and Fred, they were kind of that duo, and I think Fred more so because he suited the way that Ten Hag wanted to play. In terms of midfield and actually having a run around midfielder, pressing ball retention player. He's now got he's got a younger version, say Mason Mount, but obviously he's injured at the moment, so he can't help anything with that. But again, even going back to it with say Anthony and Sancho, like I think really it's criminal for United. They have paid £150 million for two wingers, two right wingers, and neither of them can play. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But again, you paid upwards. I think we paid over £50 million in total combined for Amad Diallo and Pellistri, and neither of them's really been given that opportunity. And you've had a youngster who's come through the academy who's had a chance before those two that you invested that much money in Alejandro Garnacho, and he's already ahead of them. But again, Garnacho had his problems with Ten Hag. Ten Hag said, I don't like your attitude. I think it stinks. And he took him out of the squad for 2 weeks. Garnacho went away. He worked on his actual game in play. And the thing that Ten Hag values more in a player is, what can they do? I know what you can do as a player, but what can you also do in addition? What's the extras? What's the more perks that I'm getting? And like you say, he might come next summer and he might want to bring in a right back, but he'll keep Aaron Wan-Bissaka on a long-term contract because he's a player that suits certain opposition. Like you play against Brighton at the weekend, everybody's going to want to stick Wan-Bissaka in there ahead of any right back that we have. Even if you went out there and bought one in the world, I don't know, a Jeremy Frimpong or Junior Dest or whoever you want to go out there and get. A lot of people, 9 times out of 10, would say that they would want Aaron Wan-Bissaka on that right back position because defensively he's solid. Yeah, attacking wise, we know there's the frailties there, but at the end of the day, when United don't have a right hand side right now, so I don't really think that's an issue, really. But again, we get to Brighton game, for example. Palestri, somebody has to have that opportunity. Now is the time to give a young player a chance. We had this same situation. It would have been, but yeah, it's a long time ago now. It would have been about 6 years ago. I think it would have been with Rashford. Rashford. We had no left-sided. We had no strikers at the time, and Louis van Gaal stuck him in there against. I think it was Midtjylland. Then he played him the next week against Arsenal, and 6 years later, he's one of United's best players.
Well, we have no choice because we'll get to the preview in a second. It'll be interesting to see what people think will start. So we'll get to that. So, but he'll have no choice because at the end of the day, as you said, we're down two right wingers. You have Højlund, Rashford, Garnacho. I guess you could argue Martial, though obviously he's a half a player because of his injuries. And that's it regarding the fours. You need 6. So attackers. You can't go against Bayern away to Bayern and only bring 4 attackers with you. So he's going to have to. And obviously Ahmad is out injured. So for me, no doubt Palestri is going to be a shoe-in. Okay, Bruno can debut there. Maybe Matt will be back by then. I don't entirely know, but I would be hesitant to start him against Bayern Munich, to be honest, having been out for so long. So Palestri, as far as I'm concerned, he's a shoo-in because you're going to have to start at least 3, which is probably going to be at least Rashford and Højlund, and then you need to make it. Well, again, we'll talk about that in a bit anyway. So, but before we get into it, I just want to quickly bring up Erik Ten Hag's press conference because I think he talks about a few issues, obviously notably the Sancho, which we're not going to go into as in depth as we have here. I use the opportunity to basically do a preview for the preview for the Brighton game. Let's have a quick because I always miss this up. Right. Okay. So here we go. So obviously, just for everyone that can see, this is Erik Ten Hag's press conference. So we're just going to highlight a few key comments here. So obviously he was asked, Erik, could you clarify first on whether Jadon Sancho is in the squad tomorrow? And also there was a lot that has happened since he spoke to me after the Arsenal game. Could you give us an indication as to what's happening and why there is this issue? Okay, so we close the game, we work on the feedback, we give the team the feedback, and I think we played very well at Arsenal. We could already see before the game we trained very well, played very well. We deserve much more at the Arsenal game, so he talks about that. Okay. You see, we are progressing against a good offside, but minimum we had to get was a draw there. I think we should have won there, but we didn't. And I don't disagree with him because I think if Garnacho stays on side, I think we actually win the game probably. And Arsenal momentum. So I actually didn't. I think people reacted very negatively to a game where I didn't expect us to actually even go to the Emirates to win. The fact that I actually think we actually played better there than we did last season. So anyway. We take the performance, and also in the last 2 days, when all the players they come back, we train very well and ready to face Brighton, very good Brighton. But we're really looking forward, and we have a good vibe, and we're ready for it. So he doesn't even address the Sancho question at all when he's asked this. He doesn't even says, with respect, I asked you about Jadon Sancho. His response to what you said after the game, and also statement that came out yesterday, and whether there's been a relation to that. It says, I think everything is set. As I said, the squad is strong, the squad is in good spirit, good mood going into the game. So he's like, essentially, like, I don't want to talk about it. It is what it is. He's asked a third question about him. It doesn't feel there is a good mood when you consider the Jadon Sancho situation. Anthony obviously is not available to you. How can the squad be in good shape? And it's fair. That's a fair question, because I certainly can look at it going, United are in a good mood based on what I can see. And he says they are very good because you have sometimes setbacks in seasons. Players are injured or for other reasons not available. Therefore, you construct a squad, and the squad is very good. The players who are available are very motivated to give a good performance, and I don't doubt that. Like, so especially when you see with Brighton, for example. So there you go. So basically, like, just shut up and leave me alone. Eric, can you give us insight into who is available for this game? Lisandro Martinez is okay, so that's good. Lisandro Martinez is good to play. That's really good. Okay, that's good. So you'd expect it to be Lisandro and Lindelof to be starting against him, which is good. It's not as strong as Varane. I still think Varane, when he's fit, is arguably one of our best defenders, but that's really good. No issues with his injury anymore then? No. I don't think he even had an injury, if I'll be honest. Victor Lindelof, is he okay? Yes. Mason Mount? No. Short questions, man. Jeez. So, yeah. So, Rafael Varane, no, but both are in a good place. They are shortly coming towards return. So that's good news. That's good news. Mason Mount. So, because I generally thought that Mason Mount being available to Bayern Munich is going to be questionable at best. So it is what it is. So he gets on to talk about Maguire. Now, obviously, so I'll just see Rob's comment. I think everything might just move Rashford over to the right wing. But I hope he plays. Yeah, I really don't want him to play Rashford on the right and Garnacho on the left. I just think that would just cause us so many problems. It's not. It just. If anything, I'd rather. But the thing is, if he plays Bruno outright, you're thinking who else is going to be in midfield? Is he going to play Casemiro, McTominay, and Eriksen, which sounds awful. So for me, just play Palestri. Just really play Palestri on the right wing. Play, you've got play Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund, and Palestri, and then keep the midfield and see what happens. If he's playing Rashford on the right, Garnacho on the left, and I'd rather, if you're going to play, maybe try Garnacho on the right then. But for Morris, like I said, you have Palestri, so that's what I would do. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, can I ask you about Harry Maguire as well? The England manager Gareth Southgate and Harry's mum. I mean, this joke of a club, man. Anyway, has spoken out about some of the abuse that Harry's received the last few weeks and months, even years for Harry. What the? Okay, let me just stop here for a second. I don't exactly know what abuse is it that people are talking about that Harry Maguire's received. Are they talking about like threats? Are they talking about booing? They're talking about, like, don't get me wrong, I am definitely one for being like, I don't like when you boo players, United players. That is wrong. When he got booed, I think in America and Ireland, I was like, I don't get it. Why is he getting booed? Like, if you boo him if he's done something wrong, but I don't get it. So I agree that booing players is wrong, but this idea that United, he's like this abuse. It's like whatever he thought about Pogba, what Pogba got was abuse. From the media, from the press, even from fans. I've seen nothing. So when you talk about abuse, the only abuse you're talking about must be from Twitter. This is what I'm saying. Must be from, if we're talking about years, because he didn't get started getting booed until probably this season. So he wasn't getting booed. I don't think he's ever been booed by Manchester United fans in the stadium. So he's not getting booed at home games. The media love him. They never criticize his performances. So where exactly is this abuse coming from? And the only thing I can think of is if you're looking on Twitter or the United stand, or other United channels. That's it. Like one of the things I hate is the way that people use the term abuse so flippantly these days, that anything that is classed as criticism is seen as abuse. At the end of the day, he's not good enough as a defender for Manchester United. He's made a lot of costly mistakes. Against England, he scored an own goal. What do you expect was going to happen? I just like I've never seen an English player protected as much as I have with Harry Maguire by the media, by the press. I don't get it. I don't get it, because you've heard Martial being called lazy. You've heard Pogba being called all numerous types of things. You've heard people called out Lisandro for being too short. You heard you've heard of people going out and like seeing Carragher talking about Onana, and how dare Onana criticize Harry Maguire. There's some BS post from Jeremy Carragher. Oh, why was Onana in pre-season undermine Harry Maguire's authority as captain when Harry Maguire had been stripped of the captaincy beforehand, and also Harry Maguire had just made a mistake. You don't want your keeper to be commanding. I already see with Onana, I'm like, this is a guy who obviously commands his area and plays out from the. I mean, you look at the Arsenal game. Onana was basically playing passes had freedom to play passes to anyone outside. I mean, this right, okay. How have you supported him through this situation? You've seen him on day-to-day basis around the club. I think I've said already many times, it is disrespectful. He doesn't deserve it. He's a great player and he has great performances. It's crazy, but it's how it works, and Harry has to block this by his performances. I mean, if we're talking about lying, Ten Hag, we know that Ten Hag wanted Harry Maguire out of the club. He wanted another centre back. From what you told me, Tom, from my understanding, we know that he wants another centre back. Harry Maguire didn't go. So if we're talking about this is where Ten Hag, and where, fair enough, I respect the dude. It's like, at the end of the day, whatever I say about Harry Maguire has never said anything to disrespect the manager. So because Harry Maguire's not said anything and this is where the whole respect thing comes in. Harry Maguire's never said anything to disrespect. As soon as Harry Maguire says something to disrespect Ten Hag, Ten Hag is on his ass, because his performances aren't good enough.
Do you know what's funny though, G? As well, he didn't actually throw like a hissy fit when he lost the captaincy.
No,
I think a lot of people was expecting maybe.
He posted a post thing, but I mean, but
yeah. But you know what? Right? It was almost as if. I think he was obviously he's going to be disappointed, but he at least passed it on and said, "Look, whoever the future captain is, I wish them all the best, and I'll still support whoever's thingy, and I'll still influence the dressing room in my way that I have been doing." So it was almost as if he'd passed the baton just to somebody else. But like you were saying about respect and everything, you would think in that sort of a scenario that can go one of two ways. You're either going to have a player who's going to understand and just. If you not back down, but almost going to show the respect to you and you're going to show it back. Or you could have the situation where it's going to blow up like it has done, say, with JADON Sancho. And you might have it with Harry Maguire and you might say, oh, ERIK ten Hag's a liar and this, that, the other. Last season, he said I was I was his club captain and so forth. And after 1 year, he's already turned it on me and so forth. But he's not done that. At the end of the day, as much as people criticise it, that's one thing that I think you can... in the slightest bit, give him a little bit of respect for and cut him some slack, is that he left the captaincy in a good manner. That's the one thing that we can say. And he's not exactly kicked up a fuss about it ever since. But yeah, you can have the thing like where your mum and stuff come out on social media and stuff like that. And, there's ways and means about it, but I think, it will be stamped out at some point in time anyway. And I think, when it's your own son, or in this case, I think you can understand it. It's a human reaction, but whether it's justified or not, everybody can have their opinion on that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just think that, like I said, the term abuse is very is used quite flippantly these days, and I think a lot of the time when I hear it, it seems to be more of a it'd be a different story if at least the English press were able to give some constructive criticism or to give parity. But the fact that people are critical of foreign players and don't give them the protection, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that when Pogba was here that I was like, this is, and Pogba never said. I mean, okay, his agent was mouthed off, but I don't remember Pogba saying anything really publicly to disrespect Ollie or any of the managers. So has Martial said anything to publicly disrespect Ten Hag or any of the managers? But the way that you speak about these guys, Fred even. The way you've spoken about these guys in the press has been awful. So I'm sorry. So it's people. And to be honest, I've always said, bro, I've been like, no, I've got like Harry Maguire for England is pretty solid, but I've also said it's not fair that you at the end of the day, and I said this, everyone was like, Harry Maguire is not playing for Manchester United. So why I would ask these people, these journalists, is Harry Maguire is not playing regularly for Manchester United. Do you think it's fair that the likes of Tomori, the likes of Colwill, the likes of what's his name, Dunk, for example, do you think it's fair that those players should be behind, who are playing week in, week out for their clubs, should be behind Harry Maguire in terms of selection for Euros? I would ask that question. What do you think? Because if you're talking about favoritism, if you're talking about all this, like, what do you think about that? And what message do you think that sends to other players coming from the English squad that think that a player that isn't playing for their country, for their team, gets picked?
Hmm.
You probably won't hear anything. I agree with you. Definitely give Plesser a chance on the right. He would be great. What's your time? Well, we're going to come to that just as soon as this press reaction. So I know we've been going live for a while. Is it more about Harry? What's this? Obviously, Harry has said as well he's able to cope with the criticism, the recruiting, the abuse on a day-to-day basis. This is like on a day. From where, Tom? Where's this abuse coming from? From where? Where's Harry Maguire getting this day-to-day abuse from? Where?
Memes.
But I'm saying,
I don't know.
What I'm saying is like so it's like, are we? So I mean, I don't know, because I don't. The only reason I'm on Twitter is because of this channel. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. So in my mind, I'm like, the only abuse that I think you're betting at is that are people shouting you in the street? No. The media don't have anything bad to say about you.
They protect you, really. I think they protect him.
And you're not, as far as I'm getting booed at Old Trafford. So where is this abuse coming from? You must be talking about social media. And for the love of God, social media is not the world. Like, so when people say, I'm getting abused, it's subjective, it's like, I'm not saying that people should post stuff on this, but it's just like, but sometimes I'm kind of like, why? When did we get to society where social media is classed as the world?
Yeah,
it's not the world. It's a sub-segment of society that spend the time on social media, and the nature of social media is that the more controversial the opinion they take, the more viral it goes. That is obvious. That's why you see some of the social media personalities. That's why even Twitter right now, because you can get paid, is sort of engagements of people posting random crap, because that's what gets views.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you don't want, at the end of the day, get off Twitter, get off Instagram, and I say this to any professional football player: stop using social media, because you can live without it, and just go. You pay 200k plus a week, just train, hang out with your mates, and enjoy your life.
But that's the one thing, though, I think with a lot of players, like I was going on before, like agents and, people close to them, their own, like, personal assistant, manager, whatever, PR officer, like, they just run the players' lives. That's the problem. And you're going to have it where there'll be a security protocol in place. Of course, there will be for players. And Harry Maguire will be no different to any Manchester United player. There'll be a security protocol where, if there's been threats made against him or his family, or his house has been leaked, or his address, one of his kids' schools has been leaked, or something like that. Like, there's going to be a security protocol in place, and unless there's that sort of the side of it in terms of the actual slander that he's getting and the the remarks that people are making online, obviously, that might not come to the forefront of, say, the media, or we don't know. At the end of the day, we had it with Paul Pogba, didn't we? Where there was the extortion case against him for
Yeah.
£10 million. That only came out. That came out like a year and a half later than it should have done, when it was actually indicted in court. So you can say what you want with this, scenario with Harry Maguire. Again, we don't know the full context of these situations. He might know a lot more than what we know right now. There might be a couple of lads that might live in the next village from him, or wherever, and they might know his house or whatever. And we know what happened, say, when Man United fans went outside, Ed Woodward's house, and
Yeah, exactly.
flares, protests. What, we know everything that happened there. It was disgraceful at the time, and any Man United fan rightfully should condemn that. There's your place of work and there's your personal life, and you don't disconnect the two of them. And you don't. I don't think you go to somebody's house where it's their personal space with their family, children, wives, kids, whatever. Like, you just don't do it at the end of the day. And I think with Maguire, it's almost as if it's just, I don't know if it's a case of, like, he's got too many people in his head. I think he's got too many voices influencing him. Because you have your PR, as they say, you'll have your agent that's influencing you on what to do. Your family, clearly his mother's an influential person in his life. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made this post. So we know that. There's another character that you can put into the fray. You don't know, again, about any other sort of external factors that might have a major influence on him. So, again, you're in the situation where we don't really know the full context. But like Erik ten Hag made at the bottom of that comment there, he has to block it out with good performances. And if you perform on the field, will anybody be talking about you? Probably not. But, as I've said to many English players whenever they get criticised, you are very lucky that you were born in Britain. You are very lucky, because if you come over to this league and you perform the way that you were, the way that you are, you will be getting absolutely lambasted by every single Manchester United fan or any football fan in England. If you come over here as a foreign player and you don't make it, it's almost as if your career's over. It literally, Donny van de Beek's still a good, decent young player. He's age is still on his side. He's still got another 5-6 years left in football. But he's come to England and his career's absolutely crapped out. But Jack Grealish couldn't adapt to Manchester City in the first season, but they didn't criticise him. He was going out on the piss every single weekend in Manchester with Kyle Walker and John Stones, and it never got talked about. Why was that? Because they're English. But you put a couple of lads out there like you had with Cristiano Ronaldo's in a nightclub in America, and suddenly you get a lawsuit case against them, and that gets talked about worldwide news. You have this thing, as we say now, allegations.
And also, let's keep a stack. They're also English, but it's also Manchester United are, whatever people say, are still the biggest club in England.
Yeah, they're the biggest talking point, and
we're the biggest talking point. So we're always going to be. So when everyone says, "Oh, why is everyone United?" At the end of the day, like, anything that happens at Manchester United is always.
If you can't take the heat, then you get out of the kitchen, don't you? At the end of the day, and Maguire, if you like you say, it's not almost as if anybody should feel sorry for him in this case, because you could have left. You could have left all of this that you might be saying right now. Your mother, if you moved to West Ham, your mother wouldn't have put that post out there. I guarantee anybody out there that would never have happened. That it would have still been criticised. It would have still been all this, that, the other. What would they be to criticise him about? West Ham are top of the league, aren't they? Or they're up there anyway. I think the second, third, whatever, they're having an absolute balmy of the first half of the season. But in Maguire's case, he had the chance to leave. Never forget that. And he didn't. He chose not to.
Exactly.
And what it came down to was money.
Exactly.
And what did I say before? Agents run a lot of football players' careers.
Yep.
That just proves it there. An agent only cares about their cut of the money, unless your agent's a family member like Harry Kane's brother, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Rob says, on Hazard did say experience comes into mind, so maybe that's one of the reasons why Harry gets to nod. But I understand where you're coming from. Other players are playing. Yeah, I mean, I don't just. This is the thing. I'm not saying that like Harry Maguire should not play for England again. I'm not saying that at all. But even in, for example, but there's clear bias, because even on that game against Scotland, why do you need, like, it was a friendly.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a competitive fixture. So I was thinking, so in a friendly, this is the opportunity for you to play players and give players experience. So tell me, why are you bringing on Harry Maguire at half time? He just played. He just played a qualifier. You can use this as a friendly game against Scotland. We're probably going to be okay. You can play. You can because I think wasn't it Duncan Gahey, I think Gahey or something like that from the Conspiracy guy. You can
Mark
give
Gahey, yeah.
Gahey, yeah. You can give them more minutes, or you can maybe use if tomorrow was on the bench. I'm not sure. Give him more experience. It's a
Mm.
friendly,
Yeah. Yeah.
but instead you're like, nah. You know what? Instead of giving those two guys some more experience, I'm going to take one of them off and bring on Harry Maguire for why?
Mhm.
Why did you need to bring on Harry Maguire for a friendly, knowing full well that like there's still some criticism around, and then he comes on and then he scores an own goal. So that's on you. So that's poor management on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Fair enough.
mean, yeah.
If you bring him on after like 70, 80 minutes, you use different players, etc. I get that. But it's like I don't buy the experiencing because a friendly is your opportunity to give players experience, and you chose to give players that have not been in form for their club,
Mm.
not been weaking out, more experience than they already have. This is why
Yeah.
I know that England are never going to win a major trophy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And gee, I'll say it as it is. Gareth Southgate has ruined England's golden generation.
Hmm,
You get one. You really, I think a lot of nations. I think it takes me every maybe 10 years. You have
hmm,
that one team that should win. They
hmm,
should win a tournament.
hmm,
England have had that the last two tournaments.
hmm,
The previous World Cup in Russia, and then they had it with the Euros. They've
hmm,
had the golden generation to win a major tournament, and they failed. Belgium. Belgium had an absolute talented of a squad.
hmm,
Brilliant goalkeeper Courtois, creator Kevin De Bruyne. We know that they have young wide players. They had Vincent Company and Jan Vertonghen at the back, established centre
hmm,
halves,
hmm.
proper midfield, proper defensive players. They had solidifying attacks. Eden Hazard on a wing, and Nasser Chadli was a decent player, on his day, and you had Romelu Lukaku. Like,
Sorry, Tom. Sorry, Tom. One thing. There's somebody in the back of this that. Oh man,
oh
no,
my
of
god!
course, that's low. Let me
But what
quickly
I'm
just.
saying, yeah, yeah,
Sorry, so
yeah.
let me just quickly just finish so we can get to the match review.
Mm,
Sorry, I just want to just quickly go with this. So yeah, so I'm not going to swim, but yeah, he talks briefly about feeling like does he feel like a father figure to some of the players? Obviously Maguire. He says we know you can have a very strict line sometimes, but do you stick to that with these players, or have you been able to give a bit more leeway to others? And he says, yeah, but the straight line is not the point. The club asked me because they're okay. I'll actually highlight this. Actually, this is actually very interesting. Um, so he's asked, we know you can have a very strict line sometimes, but do you stick to that with these players, or have you been able to give a little bit more leeway to others? And he says, yeah, but the straight line is not the point. The club asked me because there was a no good culture before I entered last season. So this should tell you the situation when Ten Hag is coming forward. So everyone going right, Ten Hag out, what Ten Hag is this. At the end of the day, he was asked by the club to instill a disciplinary culture in this in the club. As much as I love Ollie, at the end of the day, he gave leeway to so many players that they could just do whatever the hell they wanted. Sancho's lateness turnaround probably wasn't a new thing. The way that Ronaldo acted, etc., etc., etc. So he came in being like, listen, to set some standards, and that's what I did. It's my job to control the standards, and of course, it's never has been when one person just makes one mistake. There's a whole process before you come to a certain outcome about straight lines. If staff players or whoever they will always be a structure to cross lines, you have to be strong, absolutely. And I agree that with Sancho. Anyone really thinking that Ten Hag is reacting this way because Sancho did this one-off thing at training is deluded. I'm sorry. if you genuinely think that the only issue, if you think that Jadon Sancho is the best footballer technical, he's done nothing wrong, and the only thing that happened was that he had a one-off bad training performance before Arsenal, and Ten Hag's in the wrong, you're deluded. Okay, you're absolutely deluded if you think that this one single incident is the reason why Ten Hag and the club are acted in this way. Because we remember under Jose, the club backed Martial over Jose. The fact that the club are backing Ten Hag over this just goes to show that there is an element there. You know, that's all I'm saying. Let me quickly. Okay, you mentioned there the culture ever since you have arrived. Brighton was your first Premier League game. How do you see this team now against Brighton compared to when you first started? Now, I think that's a nice question. I love to play them. It's not typical, and we had 2 great games against them, and it was really hard head to head. And we have to play them to our best. They will not let you sacrifice stuff, but also it gives you a lot of options. I'm really looking forward to the game, into the fight. You know, fair enough. Do you have no idea on how long Anthony may be away from the club? No idea. Keep it to the point. Have you spoken to him over the last few days? Does he seem okay? Of course, he's disappointed, but he's okay. End of discussion. So yeah, keep it straight to the point. That's what I love about this manager, because the press can ask just dumbass questions sometimes. Let's finally just quickly move on, because I think it's. Have you seen the quotes come out to the embargoed section on GS? I have not. Unless it's the stuff that I'm seeing on Fabrizio's. I've seen Fabrizio talk about a few things. I think he said something like, Ten Hag, my decision is based on Jadon Sancho, is only based on principles. That's not about me. This is the favor of the team. My decisions are always based on that. So that's interesting with what Fabrizio said, because he's saying that, like, it's not just me. Because once again, if you listen to any fans, they're like, it's Ten Hag. He's saying this is the favor of the team. So there are certain players in the squad that agree with what Ten Hag did. Has it ever occurred to people that might be the case? That it's not just Ten Hag that agrees with the decision? But anyway, and then something about, I don't think about that. I don't talk about, because he's talking about more about Jadon Sancho. So, but anyway, I'm going to put that Jadon Sancho because I can't be asked with. You can DM me bath time, and I can see, or you can maybe speak to or post me a link to the people who were saying it. Yeah, let me quickly get the formation generation out. So let's put Sancho, because I'm tired of talking about that guy, to be honest. And let's go push on and have a brief United versus Brighton preview spiel. So here we go. Yep, that's correct. I got the right one. No, here I am. Yep. Okay. So United versus Brighton. And what do you think? I mean, Tom, are we in a situation where this is a must-win game? Is this a must-win game for United?
Absolutely, because if he doesn't get 3 points out of either this game or the Bayern game, he's good. It's a rocky road, really, for Ten Hag, because you can say the first 6 games we've not really won anyone that's really been convincing. Really. I think that's more of the big thing for a lot of United fans, especially myself, is that I want a convincing win. I don't want this, and I don't mean convince me by the scoreline. I really don't care. I'll win by 1 goal. I'll win by 4. I don't care.
Yeah.
But if it means by that we get a better performance out of the team than what we've been seeing more recently in the first 4 games, lost 2-1-2, we need to win more of the games. And the best way that I could say it with United is you have to go at teams like Brighton. None of this sit in and play counter-attack or anything. No. The way that Brighton play, you have to go for them just as much as they go at you. And United have the players that can do that. I would have said it for Marcus Rashford, and I would have said it for Rasmus Højlund. Those 2 players, if you're going to play anything, even if we say that, about this right wing scenario, who's to say that he'll even play a right winger? Who's to say he might play Rashford and Højlund as split strikers and forget the winger and play as a diamond midfield? We don't know. But at the end of the day, the way that I would look at it from Ten Hag's perspective is if he's going to go full throttle at Brighton, which I personally would match them for their own game, I would play full throttle. I would press them high up the field. I would put the intensity in midfield. And at the end of the day, the way that you're going to beat teams like Brighton is you have to take risks. You have to take risks. And even when you play against the best, Manchester City, you have to take risks. If you don't take risks against Manchester City, you don't win the game, and you'll be either God's on your side on the day, and you can nick a draw. But apart from that, I wouldn't say that going up against Brighton is the ultimate definer for Ten Hag. I think we need to see the style of play start to take fold now. Because after 6 games, you can say, well, he had a full pre-season to work with the players and actually implement what his style of play is. He's now had 6 professional games after Munich. And if we're still not seeing it, I think there is still going to be that element of a question mark there.
The only thing I would say is that, like, in fairness, after the Brighton game, Manchester United's run, because I do think we have had we've not had an easy run of the first 5 games. You know, when you play Spurs away, Arsenal away, and Brighton at home, you know, like that's in your first 5. I think it's going to be difficult compared to even how even City's first 5 games, for example. You know, so when I look at the next 5 fixtures that United have, like when which if I just let me just have a quick look, essentially we race after the Champions League Bayern Munich game, because let's be real, I think a win against Brighton at home, especially a home record, I think people at least should be optimistic or should expect that, especially because we lost against them at home last season. So we should see some improvement, even if it's not convincing. A win would still be good just because it's progress from last season. But when you look at the fixtures afterwards, okay, our next 5 fixtures in league, you've got Burnley away, which you expect to as much as I love company, Burnley aren't doing that great right now. You've got Crystal Palace at home, again, should be a win. Brentford at home, I would put. I know Brentford doing okay, but again at home, if we build the momentum, especially because we'd had a home game against Palace in the EFL, we literally have like 4 home games back to back. EFL, Crystal Palace back to back, Galatasaray and Brentford. So you'd expect that we built up some good home momentum going into that game. And then you've got Sheffield United away. So that's the next 5 league games you expect United should be winning at least 4 out of 5.
I mean, give it maybe 2 weeks, and you'll start. I think but in 2 weeks' time, you'll probably have Mason Mount back, and you'll probably have Amrabat back. So really, the only
Varane will probably be back as well.
Yeah, Varane will probably be back or thereabouts. The only one that
Kobe Mainu as well. Sorry, probably.
The only, I guess, maybe first team player that you're going to miss out on would be Luke Shaw, but I think you can compensate for that now while you've got Reguilon, or if you want to play Delo on that side or whatever. But again, to what we were just saying, when you go to those 6 games and if you want to build up the momentum, it's not just about building up the confidence of, we won the game, so let's play it. No. We had this last season where we were going into games and we were happy to take a 1-0. The standards at Manchester United, when you're starting something, we can accept to have some sort of a drop-off. When you're taking risks or you're making moves, you're playing the way that we want to play, but it might not just be working yet. I can accept that, but the fact of that we haven't even seen that yet, I think it's the problem, really. And I'm not going by this same thing with Ten Hag from last season where it's, we'll nick a 1-0 away at Wolves and we'll nick a 1-0 away at, I don't know, Burnley, or, we'll go to Luton and, we'll seal out a 1-0 win or whatever. Like, I'm not here for this anymore. We have to start winning games convincingly. He's had a full season in the job. He knows the league. He knows the physicality of it. And God forbid that he should know how he wants to make this team play. And he says he wants to play transitional football. Well, we need to see it. And really, I think I would argue there's probably 3 teams in the Premier League that play the way that transitional football can be played to its best. Arsenal was one of them, City, and Brighton's the next. And you played one of them in Arsenal, and you can say it for what it is. Garnacho's on side, you win the game. But I think for large parts of that game, United weren't necessarily in the game. But you can take it now with Brighton, where you're at home and everything. Like, there's an expectation. United fans are like, we're sitting here now. Everybody expects us to win at home. Everybody does, and at the very least, draw. You don't expect United to lose at home anywhere. That's the problem. But with the way that Brighton play, it is almost heavy metal football. They'll go full throttle for you, and they'll throw the kitchen sink at you from minute 1 to like minute 70 till they gas out. And then that's maybe towards the end of the game. If you've got the players to hurt them, then you can, if you like, bombard them. But with the way that United need to be, they need to be constructive for the full 90 minutes. And that's the one thing that I've always said to anybody that I speak to about Manchester United, is that there was one game last season that always stood out to me where United played the perfect 90 minutes, and that was against Tottenham at home, and they beat them 2-0. But it should have been 6 or 7. Yeah. That was a perfect 90 minutes from minute 1 to minute 90. You couldn't fault Manchester United players. You couldn't fault Erik ten Hag, coaching staff, nobody. It was the perfect performance. But we've not had one of them for a while now.
Quite some time, yeah.
I think that's the big problem for us. It's almost as if there's, trepidation where we can't go into a game and seal it out without shitting his hands, but we can't also go into a game with any level of confidence against the opposition. And that's the one thing that I always said. I've heard people say, "Oh, I'd take a draw against Brighton." No. What happened to winning? At Manchester United, you should wipe teams away like Brighton. Forget about drawing. Forget about winning just 1-0. No. You should wipe the floor with these teams. 3-4-0. Easily. West Ham did it a couple of weeks ago in their backyard. And let's be honest, nobody expected that. I was expecting Brighton to win that game.
That's true, but like as I've actually just seen on Twitter post, it's also the style in which they played. So I think I came across it just as you were speaking. Someone says one way to overcome Brighton's brave press baiting strategy is to simply not be baited, sit in a mid block and refuse to get drawn in. This helps disconnect the goalkeeper from their build up, plus doesn't provide triggers for them to play around though. West Ham did it brilliantly and achieved success through longer passes into the channel to Antonio, and Højlund could do likewise. However, going for a passive/reactive defensive approach at Old Trafford is unlikely to go down with the home fans. I wonder what's going to do. And to be honest, for me, because I still think that Brighton's midfield is far superior to ours currently right now, so I would, I don't mind. People might not like it, but I don't mind going for defensive reactive response. I don't, pass the ball in, through ball into Rashford or Højlund, for example, and see what happens, So because I know that like at least our attacking forwards, I think overall are better. I would say, So well, in fact, let's quick into the starting 11. So obviously, goal. You're going to have Onana. There's no doubt about that. I don't think I have to really talk about that. Right back, I think it'll probably be Wan-Bissaka again. So Wan-Bissaka. So we're not going to talk about any debates about the people who are true starters. Centre back, likewise, I think it's going to be Lindelof and Martinez. So I don't think so. These 3, I don't think there's any debate about these 4. I think they're going to start. Now, left back is interesting. Because this for me is a predicted team, not who I want to play, but who I think Ten Hag is going to play. Do you think? Yeah, I'll get your score predictions in as well, guys. Like I said, I see a score. I have a feeling he's going to play Dalot instead of Reguilon. I don't think he's going to play full back. I don't think that. I generally think Reguilon was brought in as a kind of a if Wan-Bissaka or Dalot get injured type of thing, or depth, etc. I don't think Reguilon was brought in as a replacement, and I think you'd rather place Dalot, especially because Dalot did a fairly decent job against Arsenal, to be fair. So, and really winging wise, I said to suggest probably the only issue you're going to have because is Matoma, who Wan-Bissaka will deal with on the because Matoma's on the left, so Wan-Bissaka will deal with him there. So really, I don't think you really have a problem with Dalot basically playing on the right. That's what I think, but I don't know. Do you disagree? I'm not saying because people might think Reguilon should go there, but I think that based on just like I'm going to give my justification for why I just have the sneaky suspicion that Bruno is going to play on the right. So going by this whole defensive thing, and I'll just switch this to, let's have a look, not that. Yeah, I think what he's going to do is he's going to play. And again, let me know in chat if you think I'm wrong, but I think McTominay's going to come in. I think McTominay will come in. He'll play alongside Casemiro. Then Eriksen will be the essentially the number 8, and then he'll play Bruno on the right. I just have this. As much as I want Pellistri to start, from what I've seen from Ten Hag and how his players, and also again with the whole defensive approach, etc. Even though like the amount of legs in this midfield is incredibly worrying because none of these players have legs at all. McTominay doesn't, Eriksen doesn't, and Casemiro unfortunately doesn't. So I still think this midfield is not ideal because it's just going to get bucked because it just doesn't have legs. But I think this is what he does. And then obviously you've got Rasmus Højlund. There we go. There's my man Rasmus. And then Lafak is Rashford here. That's what I think. I personally would rather he play Eriksen. To be honest, personally, I'd actually rather he play Fernandes here and McTominay in front of Eriksen. Actually, if I'm perfectly honest, and then Pellistri here. So because I've always said I prefer McTominay playing further forward, and he's got more legs than this dude. But to play Fernandes and Eriksen and Casemiro, fine, play Pellistri. But I don't know what it is. But I just have a feeling that like I don't know whether he's confident to give Pellistri the chance to play on the right wing, and would he want to the alternatives? Would he want to start Garnacho on the right and so on the left and place Rashford on the right? Has he done that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you think.
I think I personally don't think the team that you put there is what he'll go for. I think that the back four that you've got with the goalkeeper, that's going to go to Munich. I think he'll bring Reguilon into the game because he can't have Wan-Bissaka or Dalot, either or of them, blow out in this game. Because one of them has to play right back in the week at the very least if one of them gets injured. So I think he'll sacrifice Dalot not playing this game, stick Reguilon in there, and then he'll take Dalot, Martinez, Lindelof, and Wan-Bissaka with Onana behind them to Munich and play the game with that sort of back five, if you like. Midfield, to be honest, I wouldn't have disagreed with you that much. I don't think McTominay will play. I think what he might do, because of what you said about getting overrun in midfield, I think he'll actually play Fernandes where McTominay is. He'll leave Eriksen in the more advanced role with Casemiro next to him. So Fernandes, if you like, can make up for the movement that Mason Mount would give you or a Fred would give you in this kind of game. And I think he'll do what I think a lot of people want. I think he'll give Pellistri that opportunity on the right. I think he'll play Højlund through the middle, and I think you'll see Rashford off the left. And then when you need to have a bit of an impact in the game, if you need to still score or whatever, right, if Pellestri's not exactly had, a superstar impact on the game, well, you'll put Garnacho into the game. And we know the sort of impact that he can have off the bench because we've seen it for last season. Even in the Arsenal game when he came on, he blitzed that left-hand side for us, really. So it gives you the options. That's the only thing that I'm saying. If you play four midfielders, effectively, even if you put Fernandes out on the right, You don't really have that option to come off the bench for a midfielder. That's the issue that I'm saying. Whereas if you at least keep McTominay in the security pocket, where if you need to bring on a utility player, I don't know, Casemiro's on a yellow card and he's on a tightrope or whatever, right? Well, you're gonna have to make a sacrifice for it. And look, if you had everybody fully fit right now, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. He would probably stick Mason Mount on the right hand side. You'd have Fernandes in the cam. You'd have Casemiro next to Amrabat, and that would be it. And then Eriksen and McTominay would be, if you like, your utility players to come on if you need to shore up the game. That would be it. But I just think he's got one eye on. If I'm being, I think if Ten Hag hasn't got one eye on Munich, I think it'd be concerning, especially with that back line, because you just can't have another blowout to it. You really can't. Because if you take a blow to Martinez or Lindelof, well, it's obvious that Harry Maguire will come in instead of Johnny Evans in place of one of them. And if Wan-Bissaka goes blowing out or Delo or whatever, worst case scenario, if both of them ended up doing it, I mean, you really are in this shit then, aren't you? You don't even have a right back. That's the one thing that I say. So I think there is going to be a caution that I think he wouldn't play Delo and Bissaka. But again, he's a stubborn manager and he sticks to his principles. So I just don't know. I don't know really, but I would go with really the team that I think a lot of people want. I would give Palestra the opportunity. Let a kid express himself.
Yeah.
It's a one-time opportunity. If he stinks the place out, then far be it. You've given him a chance and he shut it.
Well, to be fair, I mean, and thanks, big up Bath Time in the chat when he talks about the embargo section. Because I'm just looking at some of the tweets that I think Laura for the Athletic put. What did it say? Just some of the comments. So I think he said something along the lines of, Ten Hag says he doesn't know if Sancho will play for him again. Brackets. With fans, it's the talk. With you, it's the talk. But with the players, it's not the talk. So essentially, what he's saying is that like fans are talking about it. Sorry, the media's talking about it, but the players aren't talking about the situation. They want to perform. For players who didn't have so much opportunities, this is their chance to come into the team. So I think from when and that's just from the embargo section. So from when you hear that, you're thinking, okay, you're thinking, oh, sorry, it looks like Thomas disappeared. You're thinking clearly that Erik Ten Hag is going to give opportunities to Palestri, probably Ahmad, etc. They are players that have not had opportunities, i.e. Palestri. They're going to get more. So I think it might be too soon tomorrow, but I wouldn't be surprised if I've got no doubt Palestri is going to get more game time. He is, and I think that especially after these two games, you're going to see more of him. Whether he'll start again in this game, I'm not entirely sure. I think that Ten Hag would rather go for the safety method here. But, for me, the Amrabat injury is a big blow because if Amrabat plays tomorrow, you're thinking, okay, maybe there's something different. But the midfield options that we have, no, I mean, I would have liked someone to have asked about Kobe Mainoo in terms of his injury, if he's going to be back soon, but the biggest reason why I'm concerned about tomorrow is just because our midfield isn't great. We only have 4 available midfielders in Bruno, Mount, Casemiro, and McTominay, and none of those dudes have any real legs or pace whatsoever. So we have to be, as far as I'm concerned, I think we do a West Ham. We're not going to win the midfield battle. You be defensive. You got Onana and Eriksen, who are good passers of the ball, who can lay it off to Rashford, Højlund, etc. Højlund we saw was someone who I was even impressed by how quick the dude is. So Højlund looks like he's very, very quick, very quick. So we not only have Rashford, but we have Højlund, someone who's very quick, who can run in behind. So I know it sounds bad, but yeah, defend deep, pass to Højlund, have him run at dunk, etc. and see what you do. You counterattack 2 or something goals, and then go up 2-0, and Brighton probably collapse, to be honest. So, or at the very least, they then start to come out. They then not come out more, but they then start to try and press more and leave far more space in behind. And that's how we win this game, at least until we get our injuries back. Is what I would say. What do you? I mean, with last final thoughts, Tom, do you have anything additionally to say to that? Is Tom there? Ooh. No? Anyway, we'll round up here, guys. Thank you, guys. So, let me know your score predictions, obviously, in the chat. We'll obviously be back for the match reaction as well. But, guys, thank you, guys. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I'm back, yeah.
Go on, yeah.
Apologies.
Any thoughts about that?
No, at the end of the day, I think the game's the game, isn't it? But I think, again, United need to win. If he doesn't get a good result out of this, like, I think a lot of people, the stereotype of that we're going to go away to Munich and lose is probably going to be a realism. I don't see us winning in Munich. I think the best case we could hope for is a draw. But again, United, with that inconsistent and hit and miss, you just don't know what you're going to get. You're better off just rolling the dice and seeing what you land on. Whether you're going to have a 6 out of 10 performance or you might get, 10 out of 10. You just don't know. At the end of the day, it's a mixed bag. So, but I think we will win in the end. But I don't think it'll be as maybe convincing as I'd probably want it to be personally.
Fair enough. And Rob says 3-1. Come on, Reds, let's do this. Hopefully, 3-1 loss. Sadly, we probably have a better chance against Bayern. That is interesting statistically. That is interesting. And to be fair, you can make an argument case because I still think Bayern are favourites, but I mean Tuchel, and yeah, it's. I think people are writing United off too quickly at Bayern Munich as the away side, because that against the Bayern we're definitely going to be far more defensive away than we should be, far more defensive away than we will be before against Brighton at home. And you'd like to think, hopefully, I don't know, will Amrabat be available for Bayern? I don't know. Will we get some? Who knows? But we'll see. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the ongoing support for the show. If you're new to the channel, to like and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX. We're going to be on Twitch as well, hopefully for a watch along tomorrow or the rest of the Bayern game. Stay tuned for the match reaction. We'll probably try and do a members hangout as well on the Sunday. But I'm going to be joined with Bayern Now from Kobe, I think, from Bayern Now, basically. So we're going to be doing a match preview for the Bayern game on that. So stay tuned for that as well. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace.